Welcome to Evolution Stories by Middle States. This interview series is devoted to teaching you how to lead change in education. We're here because facilitating change in schools has never been harder or more important. So this is your place to learn from those who are leading the way. Welcome back. My name is Christian Talbot. I am the president of the Middle States Association, and I am very excited to be joined today by Maria Vogelai. Maria is the head of school and a member of the founding team at the Village School in Arlington, Virginia. She leads the mission of that school, which is really interesting, and I wanted to quote it here. Our mission is to give children agency in their learning by changing the student's role from passive consumers of knowledge to architects of their own learning. We are empowering them to discover themselves and, in turn, what authentically human skills and traits they can contribute to the world. Maria previously founded Cord, which is a mental fitness tracking app for teens, and before that, Nook, an innovative approach to play spaces for children. So, Maria, welcome to Evolution Stories.
Thank you for having me.
And you're a super interesting guest because you're a head of school, but you're not a career educator.
I'm not. I came to this position as head of school sort of serendipitously. I was on the founding team of the school, so the school started about 8 years ago. I came on board in its second year. There were 12 learners at the time, and I found the school because I was looking for a school for my eldest daughter. We had moved to our neighborhood specifically for the neighborhood school, and I remember touring the school and thinking to myself, why hasn't anything changed? It looks exactly the way that school looked like when I was growing up, and yet our world is totally different. And so that's what brought me to the Village School, and they were in their second year, and I told the founder at the time, I love what you're doing here. I know how to build brands and grow businesses and launch them, and I would love to join you in growing the school. So here we are in our 8th year. We have about 75 learners and looking to expand into a high school in the next 2 years.
Wow. So you just offered your services.
I did. I really like building things. I'm a builder, and I love that 0 to 1 stage. And she was there. The school was there at the time, and so I said, how can I help? How can I help spread the word about what you're doing here? A lot of, because we're reimagining education. It's a different approach. There needed to be a lot of market education of what we were doing, and so my experience in building brands and advising brands and architecting my own businesses, I felt could be useful.
So that's an interesting phrase you use, market education, because that's different from marketing.
Yes.
And at Middle States, we actually have a number now of microschools in our membership, but that's fairly new, and they're fairly new. I mean, most of these schools are somewhere between 1 and 3 years old. And say a little bit more about what it means to do market education versus straight up marketing.
Yeah, marketing is more of an awareness and visibility of a brand. It lends itself better to consumer products. When you, however, are introducing something into a market that is unlike anything that most people have seen or are familiar with, you go beyond the flyer that says there's an open house, and you have to do a little bit more, like I said, education in terms of why this model matters. So that marketing involved, again, more than just the handing out of flyers, and it involved virtual info sessions with a deep dive into the model. It involved featuring a lot of our thought leaders in education, sharing why this model is important these days. And so, yeah, it involved a lot of just sharing more about why this model mattered.
Yeah. So you come to the village school because you need a place for your daughter that's
Yes.
a better fit for her than the local public school. You find a place and a founder that you're drawn to, and you offer your services. But that was before you became the head of school.
Yes.
How did you become the head of school?
Our head of school had to step down last year, and it was sort of unexpected. And so I have 3 children there, and I thought, I need to step in. I, at the time, as you mentioned in the intro, was working on a different product. I was working on a tech product and getting that ready to launch. And this happened at the school. They needed a leader, and I stepped in.
And was it you, again, sort of offering your services? Did you raise your hand for this? Did somebody ask you? Like, how did it come to be? Because it's whether it's easier or harder, it's different than working on a tech product.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Well, I'd always ever been on the leadership team of the school, just sort of in the behind the scenes. I was still focused. I helped the school with their admissions and fundraising, but never in a full-time role. So, being part of the leadership team, I thought, I should raise my hand here, and that's how I took the role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in the last year or so, what has been unexpected for you, even though you were connected to the school for the previous 7 years? Over the last year, what's something that you probably would not have known about what it means to lead a school had you not had to assume this head of school role?
What has been so unexpected for me is the amount of time that I spend with people in terms of people management. I just assumed that every head of school, their focus is on the learner and the learning experience. And my focus this year has really been on our team of educators. We call them guides at the village school. And they have been my priority. This year, I came into an organization that unfortunately the morale was at an all-time low. There wasn't a lot of trust in leadership. It didn't feel like a safe space for them. And if the educator, if the teacher, the guide is not happy and engaged, then that obviously impacts the learners, impacts the parents. And so when I came into this role, I thought that's the first thing that I need to do. And that really stretched me. And that in my previous ventures, I was focused on the service and I was focused on the product. And here I'm focused on the people.
Yeah. I remember the first time this light bulb went off for me that in education, the customer and the consumer are not the same.
Not the same.
Yeah. And I
That's
wonder,
right.
it sounds like that light bulb also went off for you.
For sure,
Yeah.
sure. Customer, yes, exactly. The end user is not the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love how you're using learner instead of student
Yes.
and guide instead of teacher. Those words are intentional. So maybe say a little bit about those.
Yeah, the language we use at the village school is a reflection of our belief that children are far more capable than the world gives them credit for. So we call them learner as opposed to student, which sort of has the connotations that you're a vessel that for a teacher to pour information into. A learner suggests that it's a more active phrase. A guide, we call teachers guides because when you think of teacher, you think of the person in front of the classroom, again, just sort of delivering knowledge and hoping that you'll absorb it. A guide sits alongside a learner and is along with them in the learning journey. So yes, we're very intentional about the words we use at the village school.
I didn't know that you would say that, but it resonates with the reason why I wanted to read the mission statement, because the use of the word agency and the use of the word architect does make it very clear that the school intentionally is allowing the students to lead their own learning.
Yes.
Even if there are need to be guides, really. Just from an adult supervision standpoint, and everything else. But that the guides are not the ones. I guess the way I think about it is, a gardener doesn't point at a flower and say grow.
Right.
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 So the guides are there,
Exactly.
they're sort of like gardeners, creating the conditions.
Right. Monitoring the soil.
Yeah.
A lot of people, when they hear about our model being self-directed and learner-driven, I think they think of this Lord of the Flies situation where, the kids it's sort of a free-for-all. And it's not that. We have a lot of guardrails in place to ensure that learning does happen, and those guardrails are set by the guides.
Yeah.
The piece you said about, you pointed out in our mission about agency, that we wrote our mission statement when we started, obviously 8 years ago, but we're finding that it's become more relevant these days with
Totally.
AI, and it's resonating more. Again, speaking again about market education, it's resonating more with families, starting to question, what is my child's role? How do I get them best set up in this world of AI? And it's to make sure that they have a sense of agency.
Yeah, I totally agree. We've been talking about this a lot at Middle States. And the irony is that what microschools like Village School have made really clear to the rest of the education sector is that agency is central to learning. And we've known this for like 50 years. There's been research on this for 50 years.
Yeah.
And yet the design of schools, as you saw when you first went to the neighborhood school, is still stuck in a
industrial model.
Yeah.
Where you can't, it just doesn't work to give every child agency in their learning.
Yeah. So that this is a podcast about leading change. And you may not have been at the Village School long enough to have lots of lessons about leading change, but I'm curious if there's something from either Village School or your career before Village School that involves trying to create a change and kind of learning the hard way, that's not going to work quite the way I want it to.
Yeah, so right before I stepped into the role of head of school, I had co-created and launched a digital mental fitness tracking platform, that's a mouthful, designed for teens to address the teen mental health crisis that I don't think I need to go into that, we're all aware. So what we were trying to do there, it was called CORD. What we were trying to do there was change the conversation around teen mental illness to be more about teen mental fitness or health. So going back to that theme of agency, trying to give teens agency in their mental health, and we were doing so through a platform where they could, in the same way that your phone tracks your steps, our platform would track their emotional states and give them sort of a dashboard to see what was going or how they're doing over time. And we couldn't get it off the ground with the urgency that this time needed.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is because my big learning from that is that I didn't have the right champions for the mission.
Say more about that. When you say the word champion, I think I know what you mean, but just sort of maybe define the word and then tell us where they were missing from the picture.
Yeah, well, I sort of knew my first indication that this was probably not going to work out, although I was very passionate about what we were doing. My first indication was when I was preparing to interview for a prestigious startup incubator called Y Combinator. And the gentleman who was prepping me for the interview, he had been a part of the Y Combinator cohort before, and he said, Maria, I don't think they'll care if you have a personal connection to mental illness. they just want to know if you're going to make $1 billion. So I thought, okay, well, maybe I'm taking this product to the wrong people, right? The wrong people, they don't see the urgency here of what we're trying to solve. And then the second sort of indicator that maybe I had come at this from the wrong angle was when we were in beta testing, and I was having a lot of conversations with schools and school leaders. And I got a lot of head nodding. Yes, this is absolutely needed. Oh, we're so under-resourced in terms of mental health. But then it would stop there because of budgets. Either I caught them at the wrong budget season or cycle, and budgets were set, and there was nothing that could change that, or it came down to liability. So just too hesitant to launch something like this because of, they could think of all the sort of worst case scenarios that could go wrong. Valid, concerns, but when I say that I didn't have the right champions, I brought it to the wrong audience.
That is a very powerful lesson, and I'm thinking about, Y Combinator, anybody who's even sort of like remotely aware of technology knows that is sort of like the gold standard
Yes.
for launching a product. And it sounds like they were indifferent to the mission.
Yeah.
Their mission was different from, or maybe I should say their mission was different than your mission.
Yeah, they were indifferent to the mission. And I think in hindsight, I could have gotten over that hump about being indifferent to the mission if I had brought, again, more champions, a cross-disciplinary set of champions to say, yes, this is sort of a social cause and mission, but, if I had someone in finance to champion it and say, but it could still, get you a return on your investment.
Yeah.
Or if I had someone in healthcare say, we're pouring a bunch of money into this, and this could be like the preventative step. So I brought a knife to a gunfight. That might be the wrong analogy here, but do you know what I mean? I was just unprepared for the change that I was trying to make, and the tools I had to make that change.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to think about the role of the champion as, of course, champions are people, but they're also kind of tools.
Yeah.
And I know from working with so many different schools that when you do have the right champions, that social proof can be so powerful.
For sure.
It's not really logical. It's more kind of like, do I see this person? Do I trust this person or this brand even?
Yes.
And
yes.
if so, then I'm willing to take a leap that I might not otherwise take.
Right.
But if I don't have that kind of social proof present, then maybe I'm not going to go out on a limb for this.
Yes. That's exactly, thank you. Those were the words I was looking for. I was missing the social proof.
Yeah.
Here.
And in a way, that kind of goes back to the conversation about market education. That part of the work of market education is to put champions in front of parents who are making educational decisions for their children and may not trust a micro school or a learner-directed school or a fill in the blank that's different kind of school until they see a champion whose name or whose brand they may trust.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's a lot of what we're trying to grow the school and spread our mission to more communities and share more about this model and why this model is especially relevant these days. And so a lot of what we're doing, tactically speaking, in terms of the market education is getting on these podcasts We have our head of learning writing a lot of op-eds and articles and attending a lot of conferences, so we can get out there, get the word out there about what we're doing, and again, why it's so relevant these days.
Maria, when you think back to the Y Combinator experience, was there a moment when you said to yourself, this is not going to work?
Yeah, it was probably when I got that feedback that I needed to answer how it was going to be a $1 billion company. I was not going to, I never set out to create the unicorn or, the next Uber. I set out to address a problem that was personal to me, that I had a personal connection to. There was a disconnect in what the end goal was.
So at that moment, when you realized this isn't going to work, I mean, you had invested, I assume you had invested some emotional energy into making it work, right?
Time, my own money, yes.
Yeah. So you have this epiphany, and then what do you do with that? Or what do you do about that?
Well, I kept pushing. Well, at the time, I was blaming myself because I thought I'm the wrong person to make this change. I have no background in tech. I'm a woman in tech. It was a lot of, blaming myself, for not being able to, for not having the credentials to make the change.
Well, I guess I'm trying to understand, like, how did you metabolize that experience? Like, being a leader, trying to create change, and then hitting a moment that some would call failure can be devastating, and it can shut people down, and it can be an experience that goes unmetabolized.
Yeah.
And then for other leaders, and I think you're in the other category, like, you figured out how to move forward, and maybe that particular project didn't move forward, but you moved forward.
Yes.
And I'm curious about that part of it.
Yeah, because in hindsight, I looked at what happened there with the Y Combinator interview, and then realized that it was not about me. I was just, again, unprepared to make the proper pitch, because it was possible for me to convince the interview panel that this is not about $1 billion return on your investment. This is a social cause. And had I brought the social proof with me, I think I would have gotten over that hurdle. So for me, I walked away with it knowing that the next big change that I want to make, it's bringing those champions along with me. I think very rarely do you ever affect change alone. I think leadership, especially change leadership, is a team sport, and I was not going about it that way.
Was there someone on your team, either literally from a business standpoint or metaphorically, who helped you through that experience?
I had a great board of advisors, and they were very encouraging in saying this is still a problem that needs to be solved. It's probably just not the right time. Maybe go at it from a different angle. So just encouraging in that it's not that we had the wrong solution. It's just the timing. The timing was not right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's striking to me to hear you talk about at first feeling like it's me, I'm a woman, I'm a woman in tech, they're kind of reacting to me, and then persisting past that, and maybe those things had something to do with it, but persisting past that, maybe with the help of your board of advisors, to realize, like, no, it's like, this isn't me.
Yeah.
Or it's mostly them.
Yeah, I think mostly I reoriented myself to the mission and the problem that we were solving. So knowing that there was still validity in the problem that we were solving, and knowing that there was still urgency, helped me sort of get over that.
Yeah, I think that's such a hugely important lesson for especially heads of school, but really anybody in a school who's trying to create change that is disruptive. Sooner or later, someone is going to say to you, no.
Yeah.
And they may say it in ways that make you look in the mirror and think, it must be me.
Yeah.
And yet, what I love about your story is that you realized it wasn't you. It was just a mismatch. They were looking for something that you weren't trying to do. Mm-hmm. And when you were able to remind yourself of what you were trying to do, which ultimately, again, every school leader needs to be thinking about, it gave you a different perspective on the whole problem.
Yeah. It's just reorienting yourself to your why always helps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How about a change project that you've led where you did succeed?
I can point to an experience in my short tenure as head of school. When I came in to the head of school role, like I said, it was sort of sudden. And when I came in, the morale on the team was very low, and I needed quickly for that to turn around. And I needed to quickly get them to trust me. Unproven leader. So I needed to get the team to trust me, the parents to trust me, and the learners. And what I did is I prioritized the team. I said, if they're going to be okay, then our families are going to be okay. And so spent a lot of time, just one-on-one time, working with them and communicating to them why they were important, are important, assuring them that they're in a safe space to grow and take risks. And it required a lot of just one-on-one FaceTime with them, and just transparency on my part of everything that I was doing, coming in and saying, I'm going to take this approach because, it'll lead to this. Or I just had this board meeting, and the board meeting, we went over this, and just being very transparent with the team was instrumental in sort of bringing the morale back up with the team.
Were you not necessarily conflicted, but were you of multiple minds about what needed to happen as you were coming into this role under somewhat of duress? In other words, was it self-evident to you, there's clearly one diagnosis here, the teachers need me or the guides need me, and I just need to do that? Or did you feel like, yeah, that's true, but there might be like three other things that also need attention here, and I feel a little bit divided or pulled in different directions?
Yeah, no, it was very clear the guides needed me, but my own bias in what I know that I'm good at tried to pull me in another direction. So like I said before, I have always been focused on the product, the output, the service, and never the people on my team, because as an entrepreneur, you pretty much only have yourself and maybe a co-founder if you're lucky. So I was nervous about, people management is just not a muscle that I'd exercised. But I knew right away that that's what needed to happen.
And how did you do it? I mean, if you hadn't exercised that muscle before, how did you make that leap?
It's just the invisible force of presence. I just decided I'm just going to always be here, and in front of you all, and be consistent in my presence here, and make sure that they all knew that I would just always be there, whether or not I was in a meeting or with a learner, or I would just be there all the time. So that was sort of step one. In what I knew how to do, I knew how to be present. And from there, just a lot of FaceTime and one-on-one time with the guides, getting to know who they are, what makes them tick, and doing the work of building them up.
Yeah. I think for some people, maybe for many people, that can be incredibly draining and exhausting work.
Oh, yes. Yes. And I am painfully introverted. So that is very, very draining. But educators are a special set of people, and I love working with them. They are the most selfless people on earth. And that helps.
Yeah.
It really helps.
So I'm like the opposite of you. I'm a hardcore extrovert. Like I don't even know what I think until I start talking. And I tend to feel very energized by being around people. Mm-hmm. I don't get my battery drained from social interactions. I get it recharged. Yeah. But I'm also keenly aware that someone who is introverted does get their battery drained. It doesn't mean that they don't love those interactions, mm-hmm. but it takes a toll. Yeah. So for the people, this is really actually for both extroverts and introverts. If the person watching or listening to this is an extrovert, they need to understand the mind of the introvert. Yeah. And for the introverts who are going to watch or listen, like how do you take care of yourself? How do you restore yourself and recharge your battery? Because I'm guessing that when you are so totally present for the guides, they appreciate it, but they probably don't realize what it takes for you to do that.
Yeah, it's funny. I always tell them how introverted I am, and they're like, no way, I don't believe it. How do I make time for myself? In the middle of the day, I just need to take a walk, mm-hmm. And that's my breathing time. That's my reflection time. Reflection is huge when you're trying to create change. Yeah. And so just a lot, taking that quiet time.
When you think about the next set of challenges that you'll face as not a new leader, but a new head of school, still relatively speaking, what are you looking forward to and what makes you a little anxious?
I'm really looking forward to opening our high school. That is going to be a hugely entertaining challenge because we're launching a high school in an area with very well-known brands and very prestigious brands, and we're also launching a high school in an area where parents are resume builders for their kids. It's what is that formula that's going to get them into UVA, into Yale, into Harvard? And it starts, in middle school and high school and collecting sort of the credentials. So how do we launch a high school in this area, which is totally new, doesn't have grades, doesn't have tests, and how do we convey the message that this is the high school that's actually going to get them even better prepared for the future. Yeah. So it's really it excites me how to position that, particularly in this market.
Yeah, counter position against everybody. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And yet, ironically, in being counter positioned, and I'm saying this based on what I've come to understand about learner-directed environments, is that nothing could be more healthy for the child in the real time, mm-hmm. and probably nothing could be better suited for their lifelong growth.
Yes.
And so for the parents out there who worry, understandably, they have anxiety about their children being able to succeed in the ways maybe that the parents define success, that if you want your child to thrive, a learner-directed environment is kind of like the gold standard.
Yeah, for sure. It's creating that agency. I think everything that is out there these days is pushing people, and children in particular, more to being just consumers. So this is a model that makes them, as you said, architects, giving them agency over their learning and over their lives. And the self-directed model is where that starts.
Great. I'm thinking now that part of the challenge for us at Middle States is to help more schools understand what you've already figured out, which is that the more agency students have and the more purpose they feel about the work that they're doing, that purpose could be a transcendent sense of purpose. Again, one of the reasons why I love the mission statement is because of the phrase at the end about the contributions that they will make to the world.
Yes.
So that, might be that sense of transcendent purpose. But even if it's kind of like the narrower sense of like the salience, like, why am I learning this? Why do I need to learn this? That's also purpose, right? I think this is a great moment for us at Middle States to be not just talking with you, but other schools like the Village School that have figured this out and that can really teach schools with a kind of incumbent model how to think differently about what powerful learning can look like.
Yeah, we would love to set ourselves up as
guides.
Guides, yes, thank you. Thank you for that. Yes, guides in this.
Well, thank you, Marie. This has been a great conversation, and I'm looking forward to more.
Yeah, thank you for having me.